Here with Jamie from Donaldson Home Services. 'Tis the season, a lot of people getting ready to turn the furnace back on. How important is it to get that furnace regularly maintained?
Very. Let's take legal obligations off the table. Let's take warranty obligations off the table. Let's just talk about the safety of your household. Right? Anytime you burn anything with a fuel, whether it's an oil furnace, whether it's propane furnace, whether it's a natural gas furnace, anytime you burn something, one of the side effects is carbon monoxide. Even perfectly running equipment creates some variation of carbon monoxide, right? What you're doing by having gas-fired equipment tested and checked and maintained is A, minimizing the amount that we create, and B, making sure it's going where it's supposed to go. We have to burn fuel to heat our homes, but getting the exhaust from that out of the house safely is really what is key. So we want to come in and we want to make sure that the heat transfer is working well, that we've removed any dirt or debris that's going to restrict how well and how quickly we can heat the home. That reduces the amount of time that it operates. We want to make sure it's burning within the proper levels. Again, it's things that people don't know about, but at the end of the day, there's a gas valve in your furnace, and inside that gas valve, there's a little spring. Now this spring is really light. If you were to think of a spring in a pen, that spring is actually pretty heavy compared to the springs that we deal with in gas valves. Now, all winter long, that valve is taking that spring and it's doing this to it. Now, you take a paper clip and you bend it back and forth. Springs are designed to compress and retract, but they weaken over time. Overusage, what ends up happening is the amount of gas that that gas valve puts into the system, it either increases a little bit or decreases a little bit, and either way isn't great for your equipment. One's going to take longer to heat up your home. That means more operating costs. One's going to overheat the equipment, which shortens the life of the equipment. So there's small things. Making sure that the flame rod's clean, making sure the gas pressures are at the right amount, making sure the safeties are working properly, making sure the heat transfer is working efficiently. All these things are going to reduce the cost of operation, and it's going to make sure that you are safe within your home. Last thing I hate doing is waking up and reading an article. And a great example is there was a family out in Woodstock about 7-8 years ago whose fireplace had an issue and it created carbon monoxide. And they went to sleep one night and didn't wake up the next morning. I take that stuff really to heart because these are things that we can prevent. Carbon monoxide detectors are the cheapest way for you to protect you and your family that is available to you. An average carbon monoxide detector is going to have a date on it. On the back, that date's going to be either 2 years, 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, or 12 years from when it was manufactured. The end of the date is stamped. Check it. You should check it twice a year, make sure the batteries are good, make sure that it's still in the timestamp that it should be. If it is expired, replace it. Carbon monoxide detectors do one of two things when they expire. Either they start beeping and they don't stop, so they're going off for no reason. That's the good way. It's not the common way. The other way, they won't go off when they're supposed to. That's when you run into trouble. Pick up a carbon monoxide detector, preferably something that's name brand, preferably something that has a screen on it that shows you how many parts per million are in the home. Most will not go off until 40, 50, 60, or 80 parts per million, but living in a house at 20 parts per million is not healthy for you either. So something that has a digital display will tell you what's in the home. If you start seeing something going on in your home, call somebody like us to come in and find out why. These are the things that will keep you and your family healthy and happy, and for the cost of $80 to $100 every 10 years, it is by far and away the cheapest way to protect yourself. Especially this time of year as we're switching from one season to another. Yep. The time to take a look at smoke detectors.
What's habitual clocks change, right? That's what they always say.
So that's what they teach is when you do, the clock's ahead, the clock's back, that's a great time to look at the seasonality stuff. Smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, make sure the filters change on your furnace if you haven't done it lately. These are things that are within my realm, but there's a lot of aspects you have to do. What we have to keep in mind though is daylight savings has changed from when that became the normality. They now fall back later in the year and they spring forward earlier in the year. So the changes aren't a traditional half a year so much anymore, right? So we almost have to be a little proactive on it. Again, trying to remember it's a little difficult, but instead of waiting till late October, November before we go looking at these things, a lot of times your home's already closed up by that point. Carbon monoxide detectors, smoke detectors, you want to be checking those things before you're really running your furnace for the winter. Make sure they're operating, make sure they're working, have them in place before you go turning on your gas-fired equipment.
And if you're not sure if your smoke detector works, just have me come over and use your stove.
I'm not going to speak to your habits.
That's a great point, though, and it's interesting. I mean, when so much of us, gripe about daylight saving and trying to get rid of it, but it is a bit of a reminder.
Yes.
However, a lot of people forget the fact that the dates have gotten a lot more wishy-washy. So theoretically, if you change the batteries in your smoke detector today, make a note somewhere, put a reminder in your phone. 6 months from today, give those batteries another look-see. And while you're flipping them out in the smoke detector, do it in the carbon monoxide detector as well.
Yeah.
Don't do one or the other, do one and the other.
They're both equally important, and you should have one on every level of your home. Neither of them are really a one and done thing. You should have one on every level of the home.
It's no sense cutting corners when the corners that you cut could carry so many more ramifications in the long run, right?
Nothing more important than your health.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. And that's an aspect of why having your equipment inspected and checked every year is important. It is about making sure efficiency is good and that your home is safe. I want people to come home at the end of the day.
Well, and it's interesting too, when we think about, in the summertime, getting our AC units maintained. When we think about, okay, we're about to fire up the furnace, time to get the maintenance done again. We often just think from an efficiency perspective. We got to make sure this runs the best it possibly can so we can save a few bucks. Well, by having Donaldson Home Services come in, never mind saving a few bucks, you'll be saving lives. It sounds dramatic, but it's also the truth.
It can. And we talked about ACs. When we sat here and talked about air conditioning and the importance of maintenances, my main concern with ACs is efficiency. If it's not clean, it can cost you drastically more to operate that piece of equipment. It's checking the levels, making sure everything's good. When you're talking about gas-fired equipment, it is about safety. We look at safety first, efficiency second. Our obligation as a licensed technician, every single person we send into your home is a licensed gas technician. Our obligation is safety first. We are obligated to inform you if there's an issue with safety, and even to the point where, unfortunately, in some cases, we have to shut it down. We don't like doing that. It is the last thing we want to do. But if we have to come to you and say, hey, unfortunately, I have to turn this off, it's because your health and your safety are at risk. That's why I do what I do. I wanted to serve people, help protect people. That is a component of who I am.
It's amazing. You're listening to Jamie talk, and he's so passionate about helping you. That's who you want in your home. Actually, I'm pretty sure because you volunteered to help out, people are just going to give you a key and be like, hey, if you don't mind, those dishes aren't going to do themselves, Jamie.
It's been known to happen. Even those of us that do what we do, especially those of us that do what we do, it's kind of the cobbler's children at our own home. My staff gives me a hard time because once in a blue moon, I need something done on my furnace. And the days of me working on the equipment, can I? Absolutely. Do I? No, I deal with it all day long. It's not something I want to go home and do.
I don't think anybody does. I don't know a whole lot of mechanics that leave a...
They don't want to work on their own home.
Exactly.
And there's a common joke in mechanics that the most unsafe vehicles on the road are the mechanics cars. It's and not all of them, but we tend to let things go. We tend to think. So filtration is a huge issue. In my own home, I run it until I know I'm causing issues. Not because I shouldn't and I don't know better, because the last thing I want to think about is filters. So I always get a kick out of when I have a client that's a little embarrassed about how long their filter has been in their system, right? We get a phone call and we come out because their system's not working. We go down and you pull out a matted filter, something that way beyond where it should be. And we try and mitigate this. When somebody calls into us, one of the first questions we ask is, have you changed your filter lately? Have you checked your filter? These are common questions to prevent issues. And people will tell us yes, and then we get there and we pull out this thing covered in dog hair or cat hair, right? And a lot of people get embarrassed about it. And I've always, when I've been in the home, I'll be upfront with them and go, yeah, honestly, mine has looked that way. And I know better.
Life gets in the way.
100%.
We're time impoverished. We've got bills to pay. We've got moms and dads out there working 40, 50, 60 hours a week just to keep lights on, just to keep the furnace on. The last thing they think about is cleaning the filter.
Yeah. We're busy.
Yeah.
It's, especially throw kids in the mix, throw a second source of income in the mix, throw in hobbies, sports, everything else. The last thing you want to think about is whether the filter's been changed in your equipment, whether your system's working properly. Have you done an oil change on your car lately? When was the last time somebody took a look at a water heater or a filtration system on your water? There's a lot of aspects of our home that we kind of take for granted.
Jimmy, you just went from hypotheticals to making me feel very attacked because I'm like, oh man, I'm behind on all of those things. But so many of us are.
So am I.
Our last worry, though, is your first worry. And
Yes.
that's why we choose Donaldson's.
That's why we put memberships in place. That's why we created True Care. Those components were designed and implemented so that I can sit there and say, hey, I know you're busy. I can take this small piece off your shoulders. It's not a lot, but it is one thing. And if I can help make everybody's life a little bit easier, I mean, what more could somebody want?